Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Two Loose Head Sports Show, the number one sports show on planet Earth. Firstly, can I ask that if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel, like, share, comment, get around us on Instagram, Facebook, Tinder, TikTok, Grinder, Hinge. What else? What else is there? Bumble, Bumble.
Yeah, Bumble, whatever. Get in there.
How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Slightly tired, but I'm excited. I'm excited.
Hey, let's get into it. I just watched 60 minutes of the debacle that was the Rebels' performance against the Force. What did you make of that? It to me, like I was reading all the shit online from Rebels fans saying you're not trying, there's no effort, and I don't think that's true. I think that they genuinely were ripping in. And you said it to me privately offline. They just can't score points. What was your take on the game? Because from what I've seen, they had a couple of opportunities, but they just couldn't get over the line.
It was exactly what I expected. And if I was a different man, I would have bet that they would lose by more than 15 points. They can't score points. They don't have. They have a one dynamic player, and it's the reserve number 8, who is a phenomenal ball carrier. Obviously, can't go big minutes, but if you look through their whole forward back line, those guys are ripping in. There's no doubt that they're ripping in. They work very hard. They're quite gritty, but they don't have the ability to beat people one-on-one or score points. They don't have a strong enough scrum. They don't have a good enough maul. And if they throw it out wide, there's just not enough. There's no dynamic play. So they need people back who can beat people one-on-one. If they're in big trouble.
Mate, just on that in general, do you think that in some ways, because of the way rugby's been in this country for the last 10 to 15 years, that those broken field runners, those dynamic ball carriers get through the defense kind of players have become few and far between? Why do you think that is?
Absolutely. Look, it wasn't popular. You got to fit the mold. So you got a lot of those guys, a lot of the times are not great at the basics. And they've tended to be on the outer since you and me started playing till now. And what you do need is guys who are good at all the basics. So good at tackling, good at rucks, good. A lot of the times, you're flashy number 6 or you're really fast, second rower, or there's a guy in the back line. He might not be a good defender, but he's a try scoring machine, So the Rebels don't have a try scoring machine. And they only have one guy who's really a proper ball carrying guy, and he's on the bench. So I worry for them at the moment. I think they're in trouble. They also had some injury concerns. Jordan Ulessi is just, I don't know him personally, but he's riding it's got to be like a 4 or 5 year injury run. I mean, with playing, but then injured, playing, then injured. I actually think they're going to have a tough game against the Drill.
I would like to be a hooker in this country at the moment, just quietly.
Fucking oath.
On that, let's talk about the Tahs performance. I watched the game. I'd had a couple of beers while I was watching it, so my recollection of the game might not be as accurate as yours. I know you have a photographic memory, never forgotten anything, never will.
Correct.
To me, it looked like they stole defeat from the clutches of victory. They had opportunities, and there was some poor execution at the end that might have let them down. Obviously, you can't blame the whole game on moments at the end. That's just not fair to certain players. There were moments throughout the game where they could have consolidated and really taken over. What was your take on the game?
I tend to agree. Firstly, the Force are good. They're a good team. They're going to trouble some people. My take on it was a close game. It was a grind. As soon as Tupou, I found out he was out, that game's wide open. And that's not me dick riding Tupou. That's just the reality. If every tight head in Australia is at best a 7, he's a 9.5. So I think he's a 7-point player for the Reds. And you saw it because the Tahs scrum was decent.
Yeah.
If Tupou plays, that's literally flipped on its head. And then Tate McDermott went off early and Murphy went off early. It is absolute perfect storm for the Tahs to win that game. It's pissing down at at Leichhardt. You can't make subs in that game. And I'm not referring to the hooking subs. I'm referring to any subs. We've both played in games where it's tight and you just look at the coach because we're both fucked and they go, tough shit. I don't care if you're a little bit slower. Like, we need the scrum stable. You know, I was surprised. Like, I'm Tane's biggest fucking fan. I'm surprised Tane got on the field. Unless there was a proper injury where the guy, I think maybe Cridge hurt himself to where he couldn't play anymore. Unless that happened, I have no fucking clue why people were on the field.
Let's talk about that for a little bit. So I'm not sure if you're across some of Ben Darwin's work. So he's got a company called, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but the fundamental outcome of the research that they've done on why teams succeed is something called cohesion. So cohesion is built like, the Great Eastwood teams that you were a part of. It was relatively similar players year on year. You learned to play together. You grew up together, and it was a consistent, cohesive team. Every time a coach makes a change or drops someone or puts players off the bench, the cohesiveness of your team sort of drops a little bit. So what if you were coach of the Tars, you would have kept the guys on for 80 minutes to keep the cohesion of the team and to let those guys grind it out?
Well, you got to look at it like in terms of the season. Like, it's not, they weren't down by 12. They weren't down by 15. They weren't even down by 10. Like, it's 10 all sort of thing. If you're identifying, you're going, okay, this many wins would be good this season. Obviously, we're never going to give up, but there's certain games where you can put people on. If you're losing and it's looking unlikely, you need to mix things up, or you're winning like the Drua last week, and you can give everyone some minutes. This was a game that could be won. It was right there. It was literally all they had to do was grab it. But 6, 7 subs or whatever it was
changes your team completely.
But also, like we spoke about last week, it varies position to position. There was already some injuries this week. So Swinton was out. Everyone had sort of bumped up. Langy, very good player, but he's on debut. Jeremy Williams goes to 6. Like, Max Douglas goes to the bench. Like, there's lots happening. I would have made 0 changes.
Yeah.
Absolutely 0 changes. And I don't expect that there would have been, like, guys aren't kicking hissy fits over it. Like, if they beat the Reds, right? Think about that. The reigning champion.
Compared to last year, 2 in a row to start the year, gets them off to a good run. They've got their confidence back. They're winning again.
Yeah. Like,
something that they haven't been able to do for a while.
It won't have if you're really, really being fickle, it'll have an asterisk next to it because Tupou's out, this guy's out. It doesn't have an asterisk next to it. Like, they're still a good team that are at the moment not playing well, but managing to win, which is itself a skill. I don't make a single change in that game. If Cridge is injured, I make that sub. That's fucking it. The front row stays on. The back line stays the same. Sorry, Tane, I love you, but you're not coming on. Jamie Roberts doesn't come on. No subs. And I think if they made no subs, they would have won. So for me, if you're a Tar supporter, I think you could have gone 2-0 and knocked off the reigning champions. I think it was probably heartbreaking if I was for the Tar supporters and players.
Yeah, I agree. That was definitely a case of stealing defeat from the clutches of victory. Just quickly, did I recall accurately that the great Ruan Smith has now played for all 5 Super Rugby franchises? Was that something that happened?
Yeah, it's fucking unbelievable.
Amazing. Considering, when was the last time he was at the Rebels? I talked to him last week, but I didn't ask. So he hadn't played properly till he played an A game last weekend, and this is his 2nd game back since he was last at the Melbourne Rebels.
Yeah. But, I mean, had it not, slight difference, like when you got a guy like him and Tetra on the bench, right, for instance.
Play them.
Yes, correct. But if there's a drop-off in caliber, which there is around the world, whether it be Premiership or Shoot Shield, if you've got a starting fucking 7 who's the best 7 in the world and your reserve 7 is not quite there, he's there at he just doesn't play minutes in those games. He doesn't. And unfortunately on the weekend they did, and it's an opportunity lost, man. It's opportunity lost. I was gutted for them, actually. Disappointing.
Yeah, I agree. Shout out to Ruan. Fantastic human, big supporter of the show. We should get him on here. Ruan, if you're listening, you're welcome anytime. Brumbies game. I could only imagine did you watch the Brumbies game? Obviously you did. You watch everything. I could only imagine Dan McKellar fucking yelling his head off in the coaching box when they fucked up multiple maul tries in the first half. What was your take on the game? I mean, they were always going to win that game. I didn't see any real improvement from Drua, and to me, I watched the first 50 minutes, and I feel like the Brumbies left a heap of points out there.
Oh, heaps and heaps. The problem, I mean, I posted something, the Drua taking a shot 20-0 down, 35 minutes in. They're going to have to chance their arm. They've been on the right side of scrum penalties so far, which is very odd to me. I haven't seen it as clear cut as that, but fine. Let's say you're on the right side of scrum penalties. I was just watching it again before. 55 minutes in, you're down by 30. You get a full-arm penalty. They're repacking scrums. Like, what the fuck is going on? They have to play football, and some crazy football, if they're going to put points up. They've got the same problem as Melbourne at the moment in that they've scored no points. So they're coming into week 3. I didn't see much. I haven't seen any improvement from them, but I've really only seen maybe 2 actually instances of line breaks, like exciting line breaks, dangers.
Particularly from the Drua, mate. You'd feel they'd have the best broken field runners in the competition, judging off some of the caliber of the players that they actually have. I mean, there's 2 Olympic gold medalist sevens players in the squad and some solid footballers there, but you're right. They haven't shown a lot.
They're playing
it's going to be a very interesting. Yeah. I felt like they took a step backwards from the Tars.
They're playing, man. The Brumbies had some guys arrested. It was exciting. Look, I think Nick Frost will play for the Wallabies. He's only 20.
Yeah, I agree.
22. He's fucking enormous. He famously went to Christchurch after Australian schoolboys instead of doing the Australian system.
So was he playing rugby in the Crusaders system, or was he just playing club footy over there?
No, he signed sort of the Crusaders development sort of thing, straight out of Australian schoolboys. So a little bit of a spanner in the works, but then he basically came back for 20s and Brumbies. So he's been down there for a couple of years now. I think at his sort of size, all that they've got to do is try and hold on to him.
I got a lot of time for that, by the way.
Another guy who I watched a lot of, Billy Pollard, the reserve hooker. So he signed a 4-year deal out of Barker in 2020. He was a dual code, played edge back row rugby league, fucking unbelievably fast.
I did his highlights reel.
Yeah, there you go. He's a good
play.
He's a good player.
Got big raps on him too. Got big raps on him too. I won't say from who, but from similarly honest people to yourself. Well, so he's going to be very, very good.
For me, he could end up at a different franchise just because, Lonergan was probably the best player in the field, I thought, at hooker, if not Valentini. He was monstrous. So, if Pollard's not, and if he's not going to get a lot of time down there, I see him as a guy who could start.
He'd look good in a blue jersey, potentially.
He would look good in a blue jersey. Not tomorrow, but, certainly in the not too distant future. He's a very good footballer. Very good footballer.
Just on the Nick Frost thing, I've had this observation. Obviously, in the position that you are in, there's guys that there's clubs that look at our players and who start to sniffing around. So we get asked questions from guys, and without throwing anyone under the bus, I feel like we've both seen players go to particular teams, and it's almost ruined their career becoming a professional player at that particular team. So I think if you go the Nick Frost route, he's gone to the Crusaders, one of the best clubs in the world, most successful sporting teams, certainly up there. Then the Brumbies, who are, traditionally over the last 10 years, probably the most successful Australian franchise. He's going to have a long career. Whereas you see guys who go to other teams I always love it when I see that, get spit out the back door. And instead of having a long career, they might last a year or two, and then they're back to working in the mines or excavating or whatever. What's your take on that? Like, how important is it for young players to make sure that they're going to a place where they can actually make the most of their potential? And even in the short run, if it's less money or less opportunity, in the long run, they're going to be better off because they're going to be a better player.
Yeah, I mean, you're blessed if you have more than one option, I think. So if you're a young kid who has the option of, Brumbies or Tars, you are blessed. Like you're clearly a talent. A lot of kids, I'd say, the Gen Blue squad is, when I was 18, whatever it was called then, it was probably 12 people. It's now 400. So
there's a lot.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's not exactly. It's just like basically when you leave school, you join it. If you play first 15, there's certainly advantages to like doing a Billy Pollard or going to somewhere like Canberra just because of who they produce. The risk, of course, is that he signed a 4-year deal, and I guarantee you the first couple of years is not much money. And if he went through all 4 of those years without playing much football, no shoot shield, then he's back at square one a little bit. But people are putting faith in the Brumbies system to develop them. And I'm sure there's been some ones that have gone sideways. I have no doubt. But the Brumbies are sort of proving themselves as a place where you can take the risk, throw the money to one side and, know that you'll regardless be a better footballer in the end. So I don't think he'll be going anywhere soon if they were smart. But, Nick Frost, I remember it happening at the time and I just thought, yeah, smart. I mean, look, the Crusaders have got to be, in terms of franchises, they've got to be top 10 in the world in terms of, top 3 in the world in terms of success. So if they come knocking when you're 18, you fucking pick up the phone.
Mate, beautiful. Did you watch any other games? I'm going to watch France-Scotland tonight.
Yeah, so
I can imagine that would have been a cracker.
The one that was just insane was Blues Hurricanes. It was insanity. Firstly, like RTS, man, I didn't know what he's going to be like. I didn't think he was going to be a good winger, only because those guys have got too many wingers over there. They got wingers for days, every franchise. And I thought, fuck, 12. What the fuck? He was phenomenal at 12. Every carry was gain line. He had good touches. Effectively, he had a really good game, except for the final play where he got palmed off and Artie Sevilla scored. The Blues are a far better team than the Hurricanes. Talk about, losing badly or like losing a game that you just had to win. They pissed that up against the wall. The Blues will be all right this year, but that was a phenomenal comeback. That was a scary game. That was just phenomenal.
I might watch that next as well. I haven't seen that one yet.
In the same game, they had, I don't know if you heard the story about the young German player.
Yes. Yeah. It's awesome, isn't it?
Insane. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, so very bad, but properly born in Frankfurt, went on exchange. They went, he's pretty good, threw him a scholarship, turned out to be a gun. And now he's playing for the Blues. He came on wearing 20, sort of tall blonde kid. Looked really tough, but just a crazy story.
Have you heard stories of some of the New Zealand franchises, some of the recruiting things they do around the world where they're looking at different sports and they're starting to actually put their feelers out in terms of like Olympic lifting, wrestling, basketball players, AFL. So the Kiwis are starting to get a little bit creative with their recruiting.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's a good player, man. He was a good player, and that's a crazy story, but
it's awesome, man.
It's an awesome story. It's just great to see. So, look, I think the Julian Sevilla played 12 as well, which was not surprising. Nice. Look, he looked a lot better than he did in Toulon. But, yeah, look, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck actually could do some stuff. So I have to take back any disparaging comments or basically doubt. I just wasn't sure how he'd fit in. But he was very good. So they got him, Rico Ioane, and then Caleb Clark on the left side, which is just...
That's a stacked backline.
I mean, I was looking at them, and then I was looking at the Crusaders game before that. That's Sam Whitelock and Scott Barrett in the second row.
That's crazy. That's a stacked second row.
And I'm just going, what is happening? How are they doing it? I don't know how they're keeping him there.
Well, I think... which one of them just went over to Japan for a
sabbatical?
Yeah. Or Retallick. Or Retallick's there too, isn't
back. Yeah, he's back. It's mental.
It's crazy how you've got Scott Barrett, Brady Retallick, and Sam Whitelock, and one of them's missing out.
Those teams are stacked. The New Zealand super teams, they're so stacked. They could each be international sides, or the top 3 of them. But another one for me over there is, what the fuck are they going to do with Moana Pacifica now?
Yeah, they've lost 2 games, and did I
Right.
read 13 of them have got COVID now?
They haven't played 2 games.
No, but that's what I mean.
Sorry, yeah.
They've lost the first 2 games of the season because of COVID.
Yeah. But what do you do? Like, you can play one catch up, right? But like they're now 2 rounds lost. So that's going to be impossible to make up on the schedule. I don't know what they do with that. They can't split points because that's not fucking fair. So
I think for them, it's just a matter of getting on the field and hoping for a good result. But that's 2 weeks of no games. I assume there's been very little to no training done at all, and they're about to go into the roughest contact sport in the world with no training.
Yeah, man. I think that I'm happy the Drew are playing over here. I think this weekend will be their best chance of taking a W. The best. I'm not saying they're anywhere near. They're probably a -10 point, underdog. But the Force with injuries, coming off 2 losses, this is their chance to do something. Yeah. So if they're going to do something, people will,
the Rebels.
Well, both of them. They're like, the Rebels need to get a W up. But if the Drew are going to win a game, it's not later in the season. I was reading, people are going, their connection will get better. Like what you were saying before, the team, it won't. They're going to get injuries. They're going to, guys who aren't used to playing week in and week out, training professionally, they're going to burn later in the season. So this is their week. If they're going to get a W, it's this week.
I love it. What else you got for me, sir? You said you got some admin
organised,
which is awesome.
I'm always organised, mate. So
I could say the same.
Well, a big one for me, we sort of skimmed over the Force. The Force are a good side. They're a good side. I think it hurt not having Bailey Kuenzle playing.
He had a little bit of a head knock the other week.
Yeah, so. And that hurt them a little bit. But again, they have guys who can score points. So, like, even when they're in trouble, they can score. Tim Anstey, for me,
he's playing well, mate.
I'm very biased, so I'm just declaring it at the start. But he's a fucking good player. He's going to trouble someone for some sort of jersey at some point.
I completely agree. We were talking about this offline, and I didn't want to say that, but that was my thoughts as well. Like, he's looking like Wallaby number 8 material at the moment.
So he, and I didn't get to tell you the whole thing. So he came to Eastwood straight out of school. But he was fiddling around with outside center and number 8, all sorts of different shit. And when he was signed by the Sevens or went into the Sevens program, he really hadn't even, I wouldn't say he was an established first-grade Colts player. He wasn't. So he disappeared for, how the Sevens do for sort of 4 years, something like that. So when we got him back in 2020, it was what position do you play these days? I don't know whether they were talking about center or not. And then, he played, we needed a second row, played second row. And I think he grew heaps that season. He became a tough man. And, he's really fucking fast, really, really fast, really fit, quite big. So, he got knocked around a little bit in a good way that season. And he had teams fucking all over this country that wanted his signature for 2021. So I think it's only the start of him. Having back rows that are that fast is refreshing.
That's what we were saying before with the Rebels and the other teams that don't have big ball carriers that can get over the line. He is someone that can do that.
Mate, he's very good. So, but if you look at their back row, like Stander and Kenteka, for me, Kenteka 5 years ago probably, was a reserve 7 option. But he's 5 years old. He's 5 years harder. He's playing good footy. Stander's always been hard as nails, unfortunately, if you had to play him. With Richard Kahu's, the fact he's still playing it's
awesome too. He looks fucking handsome man, isn't he?
He's a handsome. He's got to watch the hairline. Everything apart from that, he's fucking gorgeous. But if you put BK at 12 and then my favorite man in the world, Kyle Godwin, at 13 as more of a safety center, they're going to fucking do some damage. They're a problem.
I agree.
And then you take that, right, and that sort of back row, and this is sort of, I think, the issue the Rebels have. Wellesley's very good. I'll never knock Wellesley. I've been playing against him since I was 15. He always punches above his weight, whacks people. He's fit as hell, good leader. But Brad Wilkins not really an on-ball 7. He's more of like a utility 7. You know, like he could play. He's played 8. He's played 6. Like he's one of those guys. And then Wallace is sort of more. He's probably halfway between. Well, he's a bit like Brad Wilkins as well. You know, so you got 3 guys who are working hard, but no genuine pilfering turnovers. So I don't know why that number 8 on the bench. You are Iona. So I can't remember the second part. Apologies, but why he isn't starting is beyond me. I don't know.
Maybe put Wells to 6 potentially, and chuck him at 8, or the other way around. Put him at
so
6.
I actually swapped Wells and Wallace this week, which I didn't understand. But like Wells, he's still out there whacking people. But as soon as my mate got off the bench, he floored 2 guys. Like
you hate seeing Melbourne lose, eh?
I don't. I actually do hate seeing Melbourne. I have no feelings towards Melbourne losing. I got a mate down there. Like I know people in Melbourne. I just think that whatever way they've come to their squad, at the end of the day, they've ended up with, it's just a little bit vanilla. They don't have, their attack needs help.
No, losing Corabetti would sort of ruin any team, really.
Yeah, I mean, losing Marika hurts, so I get that. But like, I don't know. I just think that they should be on the lookout for basically 1 or 2 game breakers, whether it's a winger or whether it's a number 8, whether it's a 7. It really doesn't matter. They need someone who has just got a bit of X factor.
Now, tell me, we talked about it briefly, but if you were a young player in this country, what position would you want to be playing right now?
Hooker.
Any other positions?
Probably prop.
I reckon it'd be a great time to be a 10 as well. There's a lot of young 10s out there.
Yeah, it's not a bad time to be a 10. I look at the Tars and they've got, I think they've got 3 reasonably good 10s by sort of, you know,
is anyone standing out to you?
No. I think the best 10's been probably Pasatol.
I agree. But like what I'm saying for the Tars, I mean, they're all 3 young, outstanding 10s, but to me, no one's really grabbing that position yet.
No, I think my critique.
Donaldson's been good.
Donaldson's been good. My critique of Donaldson's selection last year was the fact that he had not played football since leaving school effectively. I don't think that's unwarranted. The fact that, you know, he's playing reasonably good football, but like he's not. I don't think he's grabbed the jersey, and I don't think Tane grabbed the jersey in trials. I think he had 1 really good trial, but he was clearly on the back burner. Will Harrison's been injured, so I don't know what their plan is with him. I heard that they've been playing him at fullback, but Nobby's actually been playing pretty well at fullback. So I don't know what you do there, but I know that one of those 10s won't be there next year. That's for sure. They'll figure it out somehow, and one of those guys will be gone.
I'd want to be a hooker right now.
I'd want to be a hooker as well. I mean, I think
they can throw.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching the top league and I saw Anna Arangi, and I thought, geez, what a franchise wouldn't pay for him. Or if I was GM, the fact he's in Japan playing with the Rising Shining Stars, whatever the hell their teams are called over there, Izzy Folau's team, is great for him because he's pocketing yen like it's fucking going out of fashion. But he's a phenomenal. He was a hard man as a hooker. Like, so they need him.
Have you ever thrown lineouts before?
Yeah,
it's hard.
It's really hard. Well, it
is hard.
It's hard at the level they do it, where like, you know, the arc of the ball or the release angle like really inhibits the lineout. It's very difficult. But conversely, they also practice every day.
Yes. I look, I'm not making excuses for them. If you are playing professional rugby at hooker, you should be a good lineout thrower.
Yeah, it's funny. It's sort of gone out the window a little bit, but the more, if your hookers are on point, you can really simplify your lineout. Like if you know your time is going to be good, you can simplify your lineout. Whereas if you look at like the Drua or the Pacifica in their trial, you know, where they sort of got to sell 10 fakes so that their hooker can sort of lob in a 50-50 ball and they know they won't have any opposition. Whereas the teams like world-class teams can sort of just jump wherever they like, very little movement, knowing that their hooker will hit them on the spot. So I think to it's a bit of a problem at the moment because I've got to tell you, the Reds have a hooker depth problem, big time. The Tars have a hooker depth problem.
Yes.
And Melbourne have a fucking huge hooker depth problem. Like Chiba he's almost a cult legend. He's been around since the first NRC, so 07. But he's probably not going to be able to go 80 for the rest of the tournament. So
I think Alex Murphy's outstanding.
So do I.
I just don't think there's anyone after him. And I don't think that's nasty to say.
I don't think it's nasty to say. I've seen a little bit of NASA now. He's strong. He's not quite there. He's not as physical presence.
He used to play prop.
Yeah. So I think it's a really good time to be a hooker in the Shute Shield. If anyone's listening and you're a hooker in the Shute Shield, start training.
They'll all be listening. Everyone in the world listens to us, particularly the Shute Shield.
Start training harder because this competition, by the time New Zealand gets out of whatever country they're living in at the moment, some sort of dictatorship, and gets over here, teams need hookers now. So imagine in 10 weeks, like you'll be playing for the Force, I'll be playing for the fucking Tars, fifth string hooker. Like
we'll have a gentleman's agreement when we're playing against each other, of course.
Touch football only.
That's right, mate. What else you got? You claiming organisation, and
I am claiming. Before I move on to something else, I'm updating my power rankings.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that.
So
rankings.
I'm updating them. I've got Brumbies at 1 now. I think that they've just been the most consistent, and they're clearly a good side.
Yeah,
I think that they have the ability to be beaten later, but teams aren't doing it for me. I think based on performances this week, Force go to 2, which is a big call because they started down at 4, but they smoked the Rebels. Like they torched them. Like the Rebels didn't score a try. So they've got a good side. If they can keep their side on the paddock, they're a good team. And they were missing Bailey Kunzel, who I think is a big part for them. I've got the Reds at 3. The fact that they managed to keep winning games is impressive because they haven't played well. They haven't played well at all. O'Connor's been average. Without Tupou, though, without Tate McDermott, the fact that they are able to win is impressive. So that we've spoken about that before. That takes something to do. So they're probably it's harsh 2 from 2 and they're at 3, but they're probably for me at 3 just on performances. Tars are at 4. They're getting better. They're a good side. I think that basically subs killed them on the weekend. If they played that like a grand final, and I know you can't every game, but they would have won the game. So that hurt, man. I don't know the Tars guys. I've spoken to a couple of them. They're fucking devastated. They should be because I thought they're a very gritty side.
Rebels obviously.
Rebels are
slipped all the way down.
Rebels are second last at the moment, and I don't. With Hosea out, who's no doubt a good player. I think Nazarani, is he out as well? You've got
injured.
Isiolesi's now out. Like I saw Cobus Eloff was down. It looked like Glenn Vahu on the wing maybe had a hand problem because they ended up playing Joe Powell on the wing and Bobby Tuttle at 9 out of necessity, not out of choice. So they've got some injury concerns as well on top of the team they have at the moment. So I think the draw is going to be a pain in the ass for them this week.
How do you fix the Super Rugby depth problem?
It's a money problem. It's a money problem, I think. So I don't know what's going on at the Force. I'm not casting dispersions or suggesting things are happening, but they seem to have, we spoke about it last week, the most well-rounded side. It's well-rounded in terms of a squad. Their second string's not as far off their first string as every other franchise.
Well, as I think we talked about it, they seem to have gone about recruiting in a different way where they'll get the young guys, but they'll also be surrounded by the old guys who are at the back end of their career.
Yeah.
As well, your Kahu's, your Greg Holmes type characters.
I don't know. So I don't know whether payments operate differently there or maybe third-party agreements given that their owner. But it's a
RM Williams shares.
Yeah, it's a depth problem. Basically, like, very clearly, if you look at the Reds, Not as much. But if you look at the Reds, the Rebels, the Tars, you know where the money's spent, and there's absolutely no money spent anywhere else. Like, and that's not a slight on the players. Like, fuck, I was on $45,000 when I was a player, so it's not. I'm not saying that they're not, doing their best to make cash, but there'd be a lot of guys on minimum.
You don't even get out of bed for that anymore.
I certainly do. There'd be so many guys on minimum, man, at the Tars. So many guys on minimum at the Rebels. So
you know what I think. You know what I think they got to do as well is the second tier. So we've talked about this ad nauseum, so I won't go too much into it. But with the Shoot Shield, there is a salary cap system. So the good guys tend to get picked up overseas. But I think if you did it similar to the English Championship, where you're paying guys sort of decent wages, 30, 40K a year, 50K a year, you get a lot more guys staying at home.
But something has happened, Chubby, because if you look at the sort of 23 to 30 5 years ago, right? 23 to 30, I remember very distinctly for most of the time I was in Melbourne was myself, Mecha, Radiki Samo, Tom Kingston, Cam Crawford, Talusa Vainu, and Ben Meehan. And Talusa Vainu's
good players.
Now killing it in England. Radiki Samo was
Ben Moen's killing it.
Ben Meehan, yeah, he's at
Ben Meehan, sorry. Ben Meehan's killing it. He's Gloucester. I think he's at Gloucester now. He was at London Irish.
Like Tom Kingston had already played 50 games for the Tars or whatever. Cam Crawford done the same, toured with the Wallabies. Like, things have changed a little bit. So the guys now, if you looked at, like, I was looking at the Melbourne bench or like the suited up guys, I had no idea who they are. Fucking not a clue. So that sort of, those guys are just out of here, man. Whether they're in Japan, they're in probably the MLR, to be quite honest. That's sort of standing.
But like what I would say, Jed, like the MLR salaries can vary between like 10K a year to 50K at the highest. But if you're getting offered, just say you get offered 15K to go to New York, right? But Eastwood are offering you 60K to stay here. What are you going to do? Yeah,
it does change things. And that's why you see in New Zealand a little bit with their Mitre 10, why guys, like, you get these old guys playing Mitre 10 till they're 40 because it suits them. But like, if you were heading into season 3 of the Rebels, you've only played 3 games, and the alternative is, you're on, let's say you're on minimum like 80, 70K, whatever. The alternative is 30,000 American, so it's 60 something.
You'd think about it for the life experience, definitely.
Yeah, and you get to live in California or you get to live in Texas, and you're playing football there. So I can definitely see the attractiveness. So they've got to bolster. Basically, it's just a money problem. That's all it is. It's a money problem. They need I was going through the caps, which I can use now, luckily, because I didn't end up writing anything at the moment. But the French top 14 cap is 18 million Australian
per team.
Per team, plus effectively like a 250,000 euro dispensation for each French international, which is a lot for some teams. English premierships around 9 Australian. And then I'm not even touching on French D2, which is in between those two, but, and then we're at 4.4, 4.5. So like,
it's a huge difference.
Huge difference. And I can't find stats anywhere on Japan. But it's monumental, the difference. So, there's some guys like two of the, you take the 2 best players from, Stade Francais, whether it's Lamapi and don't know who else, like Paul Alo-Mil even, or like anyone, like that's a salary cap gone for a super team. Gone.
Well, you just have to look at Rory Arnold going to Japan for around 1.5 million bucks a year to give you a good indication of what salaries are like over there.
Yeah, 100%. Like, let's look at Mitch Short, right? He's at Racing 92 now, which is, he's done amazingly well.
Good for that guy.
100%. I like Short. He's a good dude. So he's at Racing. If he can hang on to anything at Racing or hang on to something in France, minimum, whatever, mid, it doesn't matter. He's making 4 times what he makes here. So
I got a friend who got a contract. He was a top tier Super Rugby player. Went over to France, was getting 4 times what he was getting here.
Yeah,
and paying less tax too.
I mean, yeah, a friend of mine last year did it as well. He's his second row. It wasn't even close. Like it's just not close, unfortunately. So the pride in the jersey is keeping you alive here at the moment. But what you're seeing is this sort of players 15 to 35 in the squad are they're just inexperienced. They're inexperienced. That's all. They're really inexperienced. A lot of those guys from pretty much all the franchises, like they've played almost no football.
Do you want to talk about any world issues while we're here?
No, I actually want to talk about one thing. My mate Tommy Cusack.
Yes.
Crazy article came out about him having stage 4 leukemia. But the story behind it, he was in my Australian schoolboys team in 2010, and he was a year under, so he was killing it and starting at 6. Just a freak athlete, man, just hard as nails, and he's a good dude as well. And like, obviously there's pieces of shit around like me and Steve Cummins, but he's a genuinely good guy.
Roachy.
Yeah, Roachy, like,
Holloway.
Holloway, Bat Holloway at the time. But like, he was, he was killing it then. He went straight out into the sevens, and he's just the fittest man alive. Like he says in the article, he ran a 4:21 Bronco at Brumbies, co-captain the Brumbies, but effectively he played all 2021 with cancer. So
that's amazing, man. And he didn't know at the time.
No, and he was wondering why his like fitness was waning. Like his fitness waned a little bit, and he had like a bloated, like he's shredded to the nines, man, like shredded. And he had like a bit of a bloated 6-pack thing. He had, and effectively played all the lead up to the Olympics, the whole 21 super season where I think he was captain, like, and then he sort of just has had to go and undergo all this treatment. So
that sucks, man. He's a good dude. He's a good dude by all accounts.
Was lucky enough he came back for the 16 NRC season with the Eagles.
Right, Rams?
Yeah,
the Eagles.
And it was good to have him back, but he's a very, very good man, but clearly, like, tougher than I could put into words. He's the hardest man alive, so shout out to him.
Yeah, mate, that was sad to hear that. I hope he's okay, obviously, and look, something to take from that is that there's always things that go on in life, and it's just what you make of it.
Absolutely. And now,
gotta make the most of it.
Obviously, you want me to talk about Russia invading the Ukraine.
Well, look, you're a big Russian fan. Obviously, you got Ukraine heritage as well. I just want to get your take on that situation. Mate, what about Canada at the moment as well? There's so much bullshit going on. Should we talk? We don't have to talk about it if you don't want to.
No, I'll just talk. The interesting thing about the Ukraine that I was reading just now, but obviously the Vitaly Klitschko is the mayor of Kiev, former world heavyweight champion of the world. He's him and his brother Vladimir, he was also the world heavyweight champion. They've taken up guns, so they're fighting. And then Alexander Usyk, who's got all the belts, took him off AJ. He's flown back to the Ukraine today. So he's flown back. So Ukraine are just going, let's go.
Mate, if a country's producing 3 men such as those 3 guys, that's obviously a hard place to live. Tough culture.
Unbelievable. I mean, it's very complicated, but I mean, it's weird, man, because Ukraine aren't part of NATO. So
can I ask you, and I've seen all this stuff online, obviously all the media is smashing Putin, but there's just as many things that I've seen saying that there's actual political unrest in Ukraine, and because of that situation, what Vladimir Putin Gillespie's doing is valid, but it's similar to anything in the world at the moment. Like, I'm trying to learn more about crypto and all that kind of stuff, but it seems like a lot of the people that put stuff out there have their own agendas.
Yeah, well,
similar to the media. Like, how do you read through that and find out what's really going on?
Well, it's hard because Russia are notorious for their online sort of.
Have you noticed on Facebook that they've actually started saying that pages are Russian owned and operated?
Yeah, they're notorious for their sort of propaganda, So, yeah, it's super, super complicated. It goes back to the USSR dissolving, but if anything, you know what it's done? It's put some people's bullshit that I got to hear day in and day out about. There's not enough trans koalas in the zoo, and people need to put some of that shit on hold because there's literally a war in Europe. So Like there's some real problems there, and I don't think anything's going to happen. I think they will take over Ukraine, and I think China are going to take over Taiwan.
It just makes you glad we live here, far enough away from all that shit.
Well, yeah, and Canada is insane. The stuff going on in Canada is unbelievable. He is Canada have always been the progressive, so they've always been a little bit above us, like in terms of like if you go through their legal precedents and stuff like that, they've always just been one step in front. So we follow them a lot.
Yeah,
but the Trudeau's shut down the world. He has shut down their country.
Some of the shit that I've seen is fucking crazy there, man.
Yeah. So, and GoFundMe, even what went on there was just a debacle. So, unfortunately, at the moment, it depends what you're protesting, whether you're allowed to protest or not. Not all opinions are seen as equal, and they're a very liberal place. Canada always been a place that are, very welcoming and free and whatnot, but the left can rear their head as well. So unfortunately, Canada's in pieces. It's in fucking pieces. Now, I was going to say we're 2 weeks away from trials.
We have our first trial this week coming up.
Jeez, you guys have got a lot of trials.
Yeah, so we've got a trial, then a week off, then 2 trials, and then we're back into it. We're playing.
Well, I looks like I'm literally a floating head now because it's got darker in the room. I heard that the Sydney Uni are playing the Rebels A.
Yes, I've heard that too.
From all reports, or from what I can gather, Rebels will be conscripting people into play for that game, given their numbers, how short they are at the moment. I don't know who the fuck's going to play for the Rebels A. But that, by the way, absolutely no slide on Sydney Uni, but that's just sort of like the power of having good connections, like that's what an amazing trial match that is. The Rebels A in Melbourne, like phenomenal.
It's a win-win. It's a win-win for Uni. If you lose a game, you're expected to lose, but if you and you can see where you're really at, and if you win the game, look at all the confidence the new young guys get out of that.
I think they will
really win-win.
Based on absolutely nothing, I think they'll win the game. I have no idea who's playing for Uni. I know one person will be playing for Melbourne, only because he's a friend of mine, and that's it. So I got no knowledge, but I think Uni will probably win that game. So no, who you got this weekend?
So we're going to Bowral, weather permitting. It's meant to piss down all week.
Oh, that'll be fantastic.
We're not playing our first grade team, but there's like a mix between Illa Warriors, Bowral Blacks, and Campbelltown Harlequins, and it's going to be like a mixed sort of lower grade team. We'll play those guys plus some low grade games, and then we have Gordon and Warringah a couple of weeks after that.
Yeah, nice. Well,
a couple of solid trials. How about you guys?
Yeah, we've got another sort of fortnight till our first game, but things need to ramp up a little bit. I don't know. It has snuck up a little bit, this block. I think this block's gone fast. Talk to me. And is Eastwood the only one? But I know we train at different times. It has rained every fucking day, every training for 6 weeks. Like, has that impacted you guys at all?
We've only really been rained on this week. So Wednesday, we got our session in on Wednesday. Thursday, we didn't, but we did like a learning night and a gym night. And then Friday, we're at the beach. So watching the boys do line-outs on the beach, very good to watch, and actually a very good exercise because if they didn't get their movement right, they fucked the whole thing up. So it was really good, but not obviously what you want. You can't pack scrums on the beach. You're not really going to maul on the beach. We couldn't go through any team stuff. But yeah, the only real session that fucked us up was Thursday, Friday. We haven't missed any others.
The forecast again is to just get fucking hammered this week.
It's going to be shit all week.
Hammered. So I suppose we're lucky in that the top squad has some sort of malleability in the training field when they get cancelled and whatnot, and there is a field you can train on, but
everyone else can't go.
No, it's certainly been the fucking wettest block of training I can remember. Like in 10 years, it's just been insane. So makes things a little bit difficult just because I mean, you can get through it, but some of it we were getting, there was lightning that bad. We had to take shelter for a little while.
Can you train, like, even if it's just solidly wet, can you train in any rain at all, or is it just lightning that you can't? Like, how's it work with you guys? Because if it's a little wet, we can train. Obviously, and like if the field's underwater, like it was Thursday, Friday, you can't. But lightning is just boom.
Yeah. So like if if we had 2 weeks of great weather and then 1 week of pissing down, we'd probably cancel the session just because we know we've got those sessions in already. But when it's like this, we train unless someone's going to get hit by lightning. So and it's just because we can't make them up this week because the weather forecast isn't any better. So it's things aren't getting any better.
Have you broken into teams as of yet?
No, so we do things a little bit different. We effectively run as a squad of about 33, 34 into the first trial. We have, and then play basically a split team. So, what is...
So totally mixed up depending on who you've got. And some will be first grade, some will be second grade, some might be third grade.
Yeah, but you'd be unlucky. Yeah, some might be third grade just because we have guys missing for... 1 or 2 guys missing for the first, actually a few guys missing for the first trial, but the first trial is genuinely what is perceived as first grade, cut in half with what is perceived as second grade. And then also some mixtures in terms of, playing guys in a position they might not play normally, things like that. So they've done that for probably 3 or 4 years. I hated doing it when I was a player, but now that I don't have to play, I kind of like it.
Who are you playing?
Gordon, I believe.
Okay, so it'd be, when do you have them? Probably the week after us.
Yeah,
week before us, maybe.
Week before. So they like last year. I remember, or the year before, that they didn't. I'm not sure they mixed their teams really, which is fine. It really doesn't matter. It's really to see who's stepped up, who hasn't stepped up, who's playing well where. So yeah.
Will you tailor off your training for the trial block, or are you pushing hard all the way through?
A little. It's sort of been a little bit different. They probably haven't had as many kilometers on legs as they might get because it's going to be a long season. So I think the Rob, the S&C, he's got a certain approach that he's looking at. But no, we won't be tailoring off just because it's been hard to get under legs in general, just with the rain. Like we have had at least a session off. So things will have to be on the incline until round 1. But yeah,
sweet, man. That's pretty much all I got. I did have other questions. I can't think of it. I've had the most amazing day of my life. Went out for coffee, ended up in Marrickville eating Vietnamese food. Then, the Opera House bar, and then had a beer in the Rocks, and get to finish talking to you. So
that's a treat. Let me. That is a good day. Let me pull up this week's games because I'd like to just throw down who I think is going to win what now, because I'm never wrong.
Never wrong. You just ran out of time. Undefeated, undisputed.
Oh, and of course, it's not coming up. So that is absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much. Nope, haven't got it.
Have you got any terrible stories to share? Anything? Any amusing anecdotes? Some cute photos of you going around in pools and shit over the weekend.
Yeah, that was
any antics to report.
No, I had one night in Terrigal on Friday night. Terrigal was as I remember it.
One night in Terrigal makes a hard man humble.
Makes a big man sweaty. That's what it does. If I did buy 5 COVID rapid tests today, and if I don't have COVID after going to the famous Sirens in Terrigal, I cannot get it.
You're immune. The diseases can't get diseases, as they say.
Yeah, they do say that. You say that regularly. And I'm telling you, if I didn't get COVID in that place, and I'll retest tonight, they need to take and study me for more than one reason, but they need to study me.
Must have been nice seeing how the other half lived for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a true mixture, Terrigal. I mean, I'm obviously a working class man, so with
a law degree,
I fit well. I'm a working class man. I fit in very well there. But it's a scary place. It can be a scary place, Sirens. I think it has like top 5, like most likely to get stabbed places in New South Wales. But I had a great time.
It's a good place to be at around 2:30 in the morning. There's some characters. that roam around there.
Yeah, I ejected a touch earlier and opted for the vegan kebab special to the right.
Vegan?
Not vegan.
Because you didn't trust the meat? You were sober enough to not...
I definitely got chicken kebab. But yeah, I'm getting old and that's ruined my whole weekend. So I was tired yesterday. I'm tired today and I'll be tired tomorrow and moving forward. So, but I suppose we have a lot of players from the Central Coast at Eastwood, actually. Like top 2 grades, we probably have 5.
Okay.
So, and they're good guys. So it was just a matter of trying to basically avoid them whilst we're out. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. I was tackled out front of a small bar before I'd had a beer. Boy.
So what's your take on coaches drinking with players while I've got you? Have you got a hard and fast rule there?
I think there's like, if the guys I know, the guys have got a 1970s, like a bonding session coming up, just go to the pub, have some beers. I don't think that's the place for me. Yeah. But, under the right, if you're going out to a dinner or after the game, I don't have, there'd be no issue there, but we won't be attending, the Balmain Hotel. That'll be up to them. So I don't have a hard and fast rule, really. What are your thoughts?
I'll have beers with the guys that I played with. So there's still some guys playing that were, my era, and I'm friends with them. So they already know that I'm a complete fucking degenerate. So there's no point in hiding it from them. But the new guys and the young guys, nah. If I run into them, I'll say hi and then just slowly disappear.
You don't need to show them what you truly are either. They probably have a perception that you're a reasonable guy. So
a lot of them listen to this. So a lot of them listen to this.
I have had that problem recently. Luckily, I only speak the truth on here, and I have I've no takebacks or apologies. So
the good thing about being yourself is you don't have to pretend to be anyone else. So.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's not easy being me, mate. But yeah, look, after those photos circulated of me in the pool, I immediately go on a diet immediately.
I saw, I screenshot one of them. I'm like, that is our promotional material.
That cannot go sorted. We run a loose shippy, but if that goes up as promotional material, I'm out. I'm gone. I'm fucking out of here, mate.
Why make it into a t-shirt?
Bro, if you make that into a t-shirt, I swear to you, I will leave the country and go take up arms. All
right, guys, if you're listening, 10% discount for any Eastwood player. Use code Woods 10. You got to say Woods 3 times, then 10, and you'll get 10% off. All proceeds go to the Jed Gillespie School for kids that can't read good and who want to learn to do other stuff good as well.
If any other players do bite at that, I don't have a lot of power, but I'll do my best to make sure they're either at another club round one, or they're certainly not in a grade that plays before 10:30 in the morning.
You'll all be welcome at Southern Districts, boys.
Yep, 100%. Get on down there.
All right. Any closing words? You got to go.
No. Closing words.
Any thoughts? Any motivational sort of things for the listeners this week?
Drew Melbourne's going to be a big game. That's all I got in my mind at the moment. Motivational words. Put some fucking things in perspective, for goodness sake. No more bullshit social justice causes. There's a war going on in the Ukraine. There's people locked up in China. I don't care about fucking anything that you're posting. Stop it. Stop it now. There you go.
Beautiful. I love it. If you're listening, that's our promo for this week, guys. If you're listening, please subscribe to YouTube. Follow Looseheads at 2 Looseheads on Instagram, Facebook, Tinder, TikTok, Grindr, LinkedIn, all that shit. Twitter. We'll get a Twitter sorted. And Jed Gillespie, pleasure as always, sir.
Sweet brother.
You have a good